Hello, I'm Abby, the brand director from Bums on Seats, and I'm joined with our founder and CEO Amber Staynings today.
Hello, hi Abby, thanks for having me. Hi guys.
Thank you. So as we come to the end of another year, 2023 is drawing to a close and 2024 is on its way. I think what we really wanted to do was kind of start looking ahead and thinking, using our knowledge of all of our clients in the industry that we've learned over the past year, using that to look ahead and think, what do we think the biggest kind of sales trends are going to be in 2024? That's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So me and Amber have kind of gone through, we've made a list of what we think are going to be the biggest trends next year, that we're just going to kind of talk around really. So I think one of the first ones I read, I think this is probably a really key one, is the continued growth of the expectation of pre-booked. I think people expect to be able to pre-book. I think people are genuinely a bit less likely to kind of walk in. I think that's almost like a COVID hangover in a way.
I think booking is now essential, and there's learned behaviour of if I know I've got a planned date to go out, I will book in advance to secure my table and spot and remove the hassle. And I think that idea is not going away. It's not a trend. It's kind of ingrained now in consumer behaviour. And if it's happening before the pandemic sort of boosted it more on its way, and it's now should be part of everybody's commercial sales strategy moving forward, is how do we drive more profitable pre-book sales? The only caveat to that is I think there's also, which is funny for me to say when I run a business that's so focused on increasing reservations, although that's not all we do, but I think the important thing as well is understanding that from a guest perspective, if I'm a loyal customer, I also want to walk into my local pub or my local restaurant, and if I want to get a table, I expect to get a table without booking. So I think there's two things here that as a strategy we need to balance. Now, profitability, commercial, money in the bank, you want pre-booked reservations because we know all the benefits to that. I don't need to say those again. However, there is also an element of at what point are we also happy that there isn't that we want walk-in. We want a strategy that still allows that unplanned booker or unplanned attendee guest to be able to come and visit me. So I think you need both, but the focus must absolutely be on reservations and pre-bookings.
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act between the two, isn't it? But that kind of mentality of pre-booking is not going anywhere. And I think it's making sure that guest journey for all different group sizes as well is so seamless on your website, your call to actions throughout your social media, call to actions in any email marketing, making sure that kind of flows through to a really easy bookable experience is key.
I find it baffling that we still have businesses that we audit or that we know of that there's 4 or 5 clicks to make a booking, or the book now button is still hidden somewhere in the top panel and you don't really know where to find it. Or when you're trying to book, the biggest frustration is like 2 people on Monday and they're asking for a deposit or card and there's all these little bugbears that if I can go on my phone and Amazon and get an Amazon delivery in like 90 minutes or whatever and not pay a delivery fee, then why the hell do I have to jump through all these hoops? So 100% the ease and efficiency of how as a guest I want to reserve a table or an area, whatever that looks like, has to be like instant. And there's still a proportion of guests that might not book, like I say, or might want to ring up and book, and that's fine. But the vast majority now, everything's the online customer guest journey.
They'll do it online. And I think as well, I know there's something we talk about a lot, is that making your booking system work harder for you. Like we audit a lot of brands who I've got these great booking systems set up, but they're not using them to the full capacity. And I think it's freeing up if you've got a salesperson or a sales team, freeing up their time so that they can deal with the larger group inquiries and letting your booking system work harder on those smaller bookings, because people want to book instantly as well. If it has to go through to an inquiry, even if it's a smaller group, they want to be able to book instantly.
It's why I always say more salespeople know more sales, because if you're not fortunate enough to have a sales team, and actually again, I need to be careful what I say. They're not a thing of the past. They're still important, but they're important with the right strategy. A sales team picking up inquiries of groups of 7, 8, 9, 10, even 12 people that could just be dealt with online, even 20 people, is a waste of their time. You want a sales team to be proactive, to be going and gaining and building those relationships, not dealing with the bookings and reservations that you just need to trust the system to do. And I see this a lot with, especially in sort of pub world, that are actually the sort of the newest to reservations, because by the definition of the Great British Pub, you just walk in, you have a beer, you sit where you want. That's now changing because pubs are more foodie and more experience led. But, you know, there's still this nervousness around, oh, we can't take an automatic booking of a group of 12 or more, or even 10 or more. Why? You know, just where you can, trust your system, because it's smarter. And actually, as the booking systems continue to evolve, which I really hope they will, because they need to become more intelligent and more responsive to your table joins, your table layout. But they are quite good at the moment, so we just need to trust them a little bit more, because it just takes the onus of risking human error to secure that booking when it could just be really instant. I know, I love that we've both got my cats under my laptop.
And cats are just crawling around. Amazing. Thanks, Amber. I think that leads us on really nicely to one of our other big trends for next year, which is that kind of tech innovation. So I think on the point that you were just leading on to in terms of booking systems being more intuitive and things like that, I think we definitely see hospitality tech sort of finally kind of catching up with other sectors. So yeah, Amber, give us your thoughts on kind of where you see hospitality tech heading into it.
I'm a fan of tech. Like,
how long have we got?
For someone that is, I love all about the relationship and rapport and people buying from people, and all of that is so relevant and so true, and that's not going anywhere, because we need genuine human connections. People need genuine human connections, whether that's the connection of walking in and my initial greeting that I get from the landlord or the front of house, whatever, versus like picking up the phone, speaking to somebody, or even the connection now, which I love saying, is that your website, your social media, that's your connection to your guests as well, because the videos you put out on TikTok, the feeling that you create in your customer or your guest before they decide to book with you or have booked with you, and that impression they get of your brand is so important. So look, human connection is one thing, but tech is the future, because we have no attention span anymore. Everything needs to be really quick and really, really fast. And what we've got in our industry now, which I find really fascinating, is everybody's got 7 or 8 solutions for things, because we're never, and I'm glad about this in one respect, we're never going to have one company that can deliver it all. They might be trying, but they're not going to be able to do it. So they need the specialism. So you need your CRM system, you need your Wi-Fi solution, you need your gifting solution, you need your amazing till system, a little plug for Zonal. You need your great booking system. You need all of these things in place, but it's that, where does that feed into, and what does that tell you? Because all this data is telling you a story, but no one has time to understand it or do anything with it. So to answer your question in a very roundabout way, the evolution of tech for me is understanding how it communicates with each other, more integration of absolutely having specialist systems and specialists doing it, and watch this space for sales. But it's what you do with that information that's really important, and putting your customer and your guest first. So I want to be able to book instantly, and if I can't book, I want to know where I can book for. I don't want to have to go, well, I'm a group of 12, so I need to send an email, or I need to go to another booking journey, or I need to call up. Like, what is that? So look, bigger bookings and groups and celebrations and occasions online, and more integrated technology that paints a picture that we understand and is actually useful for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Thanks, Amber. I think as well, it wouldn't be a conversation about sales trends for 2024 if we didn't talk a little bit about experience and competitive socializing. I think it's something that we have spoke about quite a lot, and it is competitive socializing is a sector that has just seen such incredible growth it's insane. So there has been, according to Cushman & Wakefield, did a report earlier in the year, a 386% increase in competitive socialising concepts since the beginning of 2021. Insane. So that alone is insane. 50% of people, this was in a CAM research report that they did earlier in the year as well, 50% of consumers said that they would expect and want to see more bars and pubs offering elements of competitive socialising. And another stat from CAM that I've got is that 78% of consumers expect a pub to provide an experience which they can't replicate at home. And I think that kind of feeds into looking back at the days of COVID, when all those at-home kits and things became really popular. People were kind of trying to replicate the brands at home. Now people kind of want an experience that can't be replicated at home. And I think competitive socializing does that really well, and it enables people as well, because it's so immersive, to put their phone down for a minute and be present in the moment. And I think that's something that people really value about those experience-led concepts as well. What are your thoughts, Amber, on experience and competitive socializing? socialising?
There's literally so much to unpack in this topic, and I know we don't have forever. So I think you're right about the phone thing, but I also think what competitive socialising has done really well is FOMO, and it's done really well that it creates those things of I want to experience that, I want to be there. It's it goes back to the feeling. I think you're bang on about can't replicate at home, and when I've done work with a lot of restaurants, specifically independent restaurants that maybe, you know, Indian restaurants, things like that traditionally have really great restaurant dine-in food, but actually you can get that in a takeout now, or you can get that in a meal kit. So it's how do you elevate the core of what you do without being gimmicky, and without just being on trend, because trends come and go, but how do you elevate that and deliver what the consumer demand is now, which is really freaking high expectation, can I say? And it's really hard. And it's not about just whacking a shuffleboard in your business and expecting that you're offering something different. It has to be authentic. It has to be about, again, that feeling. And for me, it's multiple streams, because why competitive socializing, I think one of the reasons it works is I'm going there because maybe I don't like golf, but I really love cocktails, and I want to hang out with my friends. And the majority of my group do, but they've got a really good vegan option, and I'm also vegan, so this actually works for all of us. And if I don't want to partake, I don't have to, but if I can, I can. But I still feel I'm part of the group and the atmosphere, and that's what they've nailed. So it's almost like it's giving choice options to a really wide demographic that want to spend money for a reason, because of the cost of living crisis. Unfortunately, we know that the frequency of visit is down, and they're saying spend per head is up, but that's just clouded because of costs increasing. So you've got to work harder to go, this is an experience you want, this is why you should come to me. And these are all the different experiences that you get under one roof. And you know, we did it years ago at Novus, where we did drink, dine, dance, and God, looking back, it was so basic, but actually, you know, and this is just the elevation of that on steroids, really. And it's really hard for just the average pub, because how do you compete with that? But again, like I say, it goes back to guest experience.
Agreed. I think that takes us quite nicely onto one of the next points that we were going to talk about in terms of looking ahead to next year, is that the continued cost of living increase and kind of how that's going to impact the sector as well. And I think one of the things that we've talked about a fair bit is, like you say, it will mean that the frequency of visit will go down, but those things like occasions and stuff will be kind of more important than ever. I spoke to, when I interviewed Kate Nichols earlier in the year, we spoke a bit about the cost of living crisis, and she introduced me to something called the lipstick index, which was coined by the founder of Estee Lauder during like the 2006 recession. And they basically said that during times of economic downturn, people will be more likely to treat themselves on things like a lipstick, or those kind of little affordable treats become a lot more important in terms of just like lifting people's mood. So in a way, it can be there can be a positive element out of it for the hospitality sector, in that people are going to be a bit more likely to treat themselves to a special occasion because it's more needed in times of those economic downturns.
100%. I love that analogy. I mean, it's great. And I think you're bang on, because people still need and will still spend where they deem necessary. And I think where some of the, you know, the upgrading to the fancy car may not be happening, going out for a really nice meal and an experience with your friends and family is a necessity. And I think it's been a necessity even more so on the back of the pandemic. I mean, we saw what happened with the Eat Out to Help Out campaign, right? And love or hate it from yes, it spread COVID, but actually it was great for us. But, you know, the point was there was pent up demand. Now, obviously, the pent up demand has stabilised, and the choice that you have as a customer is huge. But 100% cost of living is a real thing. We know it's going to hopefully start to get better, but my personal view is next year is going to be hard. And I am the most optimistic person, and I was the one during the pandemic going, don't worry guys, next week we'll be fine, next year we'll be fine.
We'll be back open next week.
You know this, Abby, but oh my God, didn't we have some trials and tribulations? And I was totally wrong. I did a whole campaign about Christmas isn't cancelled when it was. So I'm ever optimistic. However, experience has taught me that I think next year will continue to be difficult. And so as a operator, the need to be the choice the number one choice of where your customer goes, and you become that number one choice because you understand who your customer is, first and foremost. You understand what your brand is and what your synergy is. You understand what your offer is, and you're being creative with different reasons to visit and within your realms of your brand and your business, and being true to who you are. And you're offering that incredibly important, fantastic experience and service, good old-fashioned hospitality, because that goes a really long way. But yeah, next year's, I think it's going to be hard, and the cost of living is not going anywhere. I feel one of the very fortunate, grateful people, to be honest, to be in my position, where I've got a roof over my head, and you know, we're running businesses, and not everyone is as lucky as that. And I think it's really important just to feel humbled, but it's going to be a lot of hard work for next year.
Yeah, agreed. And I think you're right. I think that kind of focus on that good old-fashioned hospitality is what will make your business memorable, and it's what will make people come back as well. And that is a nice little segue into our next trend for next year, which is loyalty. So loyalty is something that has been talked about so much in the hospitality sector over the past couple of years. How do you kind of build loyalty? And I think one of the things that we were talking about earlier, Amber, was kind of loyalty to replace offers and discounts for hospitality. So how do you see loyalty kind of moving forward in 2024?
I think first of all, loyalty's become a buzzword, right? So it's like loyalty, but it's like, well, you sort of say, well, then okay, so like, what does that look like and how? And everyone sort of goes, oh well, and it's a bit of a minefield. So for me, to be really simple, loyalty is just increasing the frequency of visit from one guest. Now that doesn't mean that they're not going to go to other places and be loyal there. It just means that the more times that they visit you, the more loyal that they are, right? So really, really simple. So how do you do that? And I think you've got some great examples of people like Nando's who have been leading the way on this massively. I mean, and Pizza Express, like amazing. You know, they've got 5-6 million people on their loyalty scheme because they've changed it from offers and discounts to loyalty. So essentially, from a margin GP perspective, you would say, well, still giving away a discount, but you're doing it on the basis that the customer is a frequent visitor. So their lifetime value, something I'm talking a lot about at the moment, which I love linking that with loyalty and really helping that make sense. The value of that customer for their lifetime of your brand and your business is far greater than just a one-off offer. And then obviously the thing that loyalty gives you is the flexibility on peak and off-peak trade. And again, the innovation creative bit, you can turn it on, turn it off. And there's just shitloads of different options out there of how you do this. And in all honesty, I think it has to fall again into your commercial sales strategy, because it's really important you get it right. And I love, I'll share this with you or your friends when I go get Botox. I know this isn't natural.
Oh, me too.
When I go get Botox and I get £18 off my next Botox because I've built up points, you feel, oh my God, that's amazing. Why would I go anywhere else? £18 off Botox, bloody fantastic. Yeah. So, you know, that works really well. And it's really, really simple. Points for cashback are, you know, great. But obviously there's lots of different options as well. I think my top tip on loyalty is simple is best.
Yeah.
And where the evolution of loyalty goes, I hope, is down the personalization route, and that we're rewarding our loyal customers based on what they want to be rewarded with. But we ain't there yet as a sector. Yes. I think the step one is keep it simple, and really easy to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to overcomplicate it with loyalty. I think what I'd love to see in 2024 is a hospitality brand implement like a loyalty function that is as successful as, say, the Starbucks rewards card, or, you know, Tesco club card, or something, or like Nectar card. Like to see a hospitality brand absolutely nail some sort of loyalty strategy in that way, I would love to see that next year. So
yeah, I agree.
So next, we were going to talk about a little bit about kind of alignment between sales and marketing. So this is something that we come across a lot. Obviously, I'm more of a marketing person, you're more of a sales person, and a lot of work that we do with our clients is kind of on sales and marketing and trying to get them to kind of to work together, because one hand feeds the other in a way. So Amber, what are your thoughts on how teams are going to have to really kind of integrate and be cohesive between sales and marketing in 2024?
I think because of how it's more expensive everything is, and people don't, you know, head office headcount is always going to be a thing. Yeah, having lots of separate people doing separate jobs is always a challenge, and I think Well, the caveat to that is I do not see sales and marketing being the same skill set. So I couldn't do what you can do, and you couldn't do what I could do. I mean, probably could actually, but for argument's sake, let's say you couldn't. So I think where you need to be is really smart and really clever. And genuinely, I am plugging my business now because it's true. Using a company like ours to fill the gap of the strategic part of your sales strategy to feed into your permanent marketing team works really, really well. Because once you've got the strategy, it's about delivering it. The bit that people fall down on is they don't have a cohesive strategy to start with. So there's a marketing strategy, there's operational goals and tasks and rules that need to happen. And those two things have been in our industry for a long time. And then if you're lucky and you've got a sales director or commercial director, you might have a sales strategy, but it's few and far between. So the smart thing for me is you pull all of those pieces together. The holy grail sales, marketing, ops, but there's also a fourth now, Abby, which is tech. And that's really important. So, and that spans actually all of those three departments. So when we're talking, and I'm giving you a long answer because there isn't a short answer, when we're talking about the cohesive relationship and working partnership between sales and marketing, it starts with the strategy. And if you get that right and understand what are then the marketing actions, tasks, accountability versus sales, and who is doing those, if it's a GM at a site, if it's a fine, but that's the really important bit. I see too often that we've got businesses going off and doing independent bits, bringing them together and expecting it to work. But from the start, it needs to happen cohesively then.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think, sales and marketing, they are so intertwined because you're both departments are working towards that same goal. Kind of. So how do you kind of work together to get the most out of it and get the most out of everyone's skill sets as well? So next, one of the points that I particularly wanted to talk about from kind of a marketing angle is kind of brand authenticity and storytelling. I think what I've seen a lot over the past year, and even further back than that, is obviously, TikTok, Instagram Reels, all that kind of stuff has kind of grown. And I think kind of there's been a general shift on social media where it's less kind of curated, polished, edited images that people are wanting to see. People kind of want to see more kind of raw, off the cuff, in the moment, authentic content. And I think that relays back completely as well to hospitality businesses. I think you want to use your social media platforms as a way where you can kind of tell the story of your brand and you can show your USPs and you can kind of really get the buy-in from your followers and from your guests on social media. I think gone are the days of a perfectly curated Instagram feed. People want to see a bit more. People want to see a bit more authenticity. People want to see more authenticity now. They want to see the faces behind the business. They want to know, to quote you, Amber, it's almost like the why. It's like it's the so what. Like, okay, and this is a really good example, is Rose's Thai Cafe. They've done really, really well on TikTok, and it's because what they've done is had the owner of Rose's Thai Cafe film her making recipes in her kitchen. So, and that kind of builds the authenticity, as that people know that it's an authentic Thai brand and that she's come up with all the recipes herself and it's in her kitchen and people are buying into her and her brand story. And, it's authentic, and that's what people really want to see.
It's so true, and you're amazing for saying this, and why Roses is a great example, because they're a brand with heritage, right, and they've grown quite quickly. So they've obviously recognised that they now need to pull back and say, yes, we've scaled, and when a business scales, it's really hard to keep authenticity. So how do we then put that back in? I want to know, Abby, who else is aspirational? If I was an operator listening to this and I was like, okay, who does it really well? Where do I go to get ideas? Who else would you say?
I think Incipio Group have done really well on TikTok. They've built a really big following quite quickly as well, and they've done quite a few of those. They're kind of quite good at taking like trends and trending sounds and stuff and making them applicable to their business. And I think what you kind of, if you're going to try and grow your brand on TikTok, you have to kind of come up with either a strategy like Rose's Thai Cafe have done, because now you can do longer form videos as well. You can do up to 10 minutes. So they've used that to mean that they can do more longer form content of the recipe videos and things like that. Or if you're going to go down the route of kind of jumping on trends and stuff, you've got to kind of be willing to kind of have a bit of fun with it and get people on site to kind of come and and do things where they might look a bit silly or whatever, but people kind of like it because they see the people behind the brand as well.
I think Big Mama are also exceptional at it. So I think the one question I had for you on this subject is something that we get asked all the time is, I don't have a digital marketing team, I have a TikTok account set up. I use Instagram, but I'm a site, and I'm responsible for my digital marketing. How do I create really good, authentic content within my site without having the power of a brand or a budget behind me that can support? Because I find that a real challenge.
Yeah, I think, and this might be a little bit of a controversial answer, but one of the first things I would say is if you don't have, so firstly, if you don't have tons of resource, look at your customer base and look at where they spend their time on the internet. Okay. And I would say you want to focus on, if you don't have huge team and resource, don't try and do every single social media platform. Do one where you know your customer base spend their time on the internet. So that might be Instagram or it might be TikTok, but don't try and spread yourself too thin. One really well performing social media platform is better than 3 not so performing social media platforms. And also I found some stats actually, which might be able to add to the end of this, but there is a survey, and it was a lot of kind of Gen Z said that they actually saw Instagram Reels as being quite similar to TikTok, and they'd kind of use them in the same way. So if you don't have the resource to kind of go and do an amazing TikTok like Rosa's Thai Cafe, don't worry about it. Kind of use your brand authenticity and try and build on your Instagram, and then maybe see where you can go from there. So that would be one of my first things, is don't spread yourself too thin, focus on one platform. Then I would do like a brainstorming session and try and kind of write down, what are your USPs? What are the key elements of your brand? What are the things that you want to be known for? What are your hero products? What are the things that set you out, make you different than your competitors? I know, Amber, this is something that you did in Miracle Training years ago. You get people to write a USP, and the ones that couldn't do it, that got to the end, had to they lost it. And I thought I'd almost do something like that, write all of your USPs down, and then start thinking of how you can make content around these USPs, how you can show those things off. There's also a really good blog, which I can link in. I think it's a HubSpot blog, and they update it every Monday with the trending sounds and things on TikTok and Instagram. So it'd be worth checking that every week and kind of trying to feed them in, because that's how you can have things that kind of get quite a lot of traction, is by jumping on a trend. But obviously always try and make sure that it don't make a square peg fit a round hole. Do you know what I mean? Make sure that it's something that actually will work for you and your brand.
I like that idea. Yeah, no, sorry, I was going to say, just on that point, I love that idea, because when talking about that, you might tell me I'm wrong, but if you are really aware of everything that's happening within your centre of the universe, your 50-minute area, and you're sort of plugging and talking about or doing some of those local events and stuff as well, that must really help your reach. So you're not just talking about, we serve great beer, we do good food, we're dog friendly. Like, you're actually talking about more community stuff that can help build a reach that's interesting. Would you say that would also work quite well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, community is key for sure. I think in terms of creating content as well, I would always advise to just kind of block out like half a day, write a brief of what you're going to do, and spend that day just getting as much as possible. And then that will kind of set you up for the next sort of few weeks in terms of content. And always try and like repurpose and reuse bits of content as well. There might be some little bits of video that didn't quite make it into a reel, but can you use that for an Instagram story, for example, so that you're not kind of, shooting things and then them going to waste.
Amazing.
So there's my 4 cents on social media. So one of the next points, Amber, that we wanted to talk about a little bit as well was kind of what I've called it here is thinking out of the brunch box. So I think we've talked so much about brunch, and it's been honestly like such a mind-blowing trend over the past couple of years in terms of the amount of people. Brunch was never even a thing like 5 years ago, and now everyone's going for bottomless brunch. But I think it's almost had its day in the sun now, but I do think that day trade continues to grow.
Personal Bay would disagree with you on that, Ab.
I'm sure they would. I think,
but no, I know it's so obvious, it's so done, isn't it? Like, everyone's doing a drag brunch or yeah.
So I think it's going to be more about how can operators kind of do something a bit unique in the daytime that isn't a bottomless brunch. And I think, again, that kind of goes back to your brand authenticity as well, doesn't it? Like, if you're a craft beer brand, do something related to that. Don't try and do a bottomless brunch. That might not be what your demographic wants. Lean on your USPs, lean on what you do well to create a unique daytime experience, would be my thought.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, that it's about creating as many multiple revenue streams as possible, because day part continues to be really difficult. Driving lunch for a lot of businesses continues to be really difficult. Early week, Mondays, and for a lot of businesses now, Friday nights continue to be really difficult. Brunch, works also because generally you book it on a Saturday, whereas the point, and it's occasion led. The point for me is, so it's always going to do well. The point for me is, how do you create multiple reasons to visit across the week? And in some respects I disagree with you. I don't think if you just stay completely in your zone of, this is my USPs, this is what I do, you'll not actually be able to have a wide enough audience to fill those off-peak times. So I think there's an element of taking a leap of faith and saying, actually, I'd rather have a half busy pub, bar, restaurant on a Monday than no bums on seats at all. And if those bums on seats are not my typical demographic, so what? If I can offer a solution in a space and a revenue stream that works and helps me financially, but also fills a dead space, why not? I see too often dead spaces in venues, and dead spaces that aren't advertised, dead spaces that you ain't going to fix through private hire on a Monday every week. It's not going to happen. Get realistic. It's not going to happen. So you've got to create different revenue streams. Things like this time of year, you can do reef making masterclasses. You can put on different cool cinema events. You can, there's dance, live music. There's shed loads of things that you can do. It just takes time and effort. You can then also just link up with third parties, outsource it to a third party to sell their own tickets and all of that sort of stuff. Link up the Stag and Hen market, the travel trade market. All of it's back, but all of it comes at a discounted price. So again, commercial sales strategy. Where are you willing to give that away? Where do you have empty spaces? So yes, brunch is done. It worked because it's a Saturday and it's occasion. Then it's not going to stop working. It's still going to be massive next year. It's not going to stop. So my point is, do more, do different, be more creative, think more about the other occasions in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's almost like just, go back to basics and start putting together like an events calendar and looking at who, and that goes back to that community piece as well. How can you maybe get your local community involved and keep it local as well for some of those events?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's two things you always think about. There's national. If you're part of a group, it's national brand presence, and therefore I'm coming to you because I'm in love with your brand, and we've got people like Pizza Express and Lasagonas and those guys that do that really, really well. Versus I'm coming to you because you're in my local area. I'm walking past. I've made a beeline because that's the area I'm going to, or this is just my community, and all of those things, irrespective of the type of hospitality operator you are, you need to be attracting, and then you layer on with that everything from events. And actually Young's have done this really well, where they've put on they're doing a lot of local Christmas events within the pub for local community. I mean, it's such a no-brainer. I'm sure there's a lot of pubs that are doing the same. It just takes effort, and it takes often the right management and leadership as well, and remove some red tape. I think we're always a bit scared of doing things, but as long as you've got the right support for the site on things like collateral and branding, and let the site, let our operators come up with the ideas of what they want to do and try it, and then tap into your national account stuff, because that really works as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it goes back to what we said before, isn't it? When you said kind of doing nothing is one of the worst things you can do. It's like just give it a go. Just give something a go and see how it goes. Yeah.
And I bet there's people in every operation who, and there will be exceptions to the rule, but I bet there's people that if you said to them, what's your idea? What do you think we should do? You've worked in this business, we're a team, you're front of house, you're a chef, come on to get, what do you think? What can we do? I bet there would be ideas. And I think this idea of collaborating, sales, marketing, ops, tech, that for me is the future for next year. And that's where we're going to really drive sales, is thinking about all those channels and getting more people involved. And yeah, absolutely. So that brings us nicely onto our final trend for 2024, and this is recruitment challenges. I think we've kind of ended on a bit of a. I know. It's not a trend, is it? It's just a bloody reality.
Well, it is obviously it is something that is going on that is going to impact. It is going to impact the hospitality industry, and it's going to be something that we're going to have to kind of work around. So recruitment challenges, and I think one of the things that we were going to talk about is kind of cross training people into different areas and things as well. So tell us a little bit, Amber, about that.
I think, look, I'm not authentic here really, because I went to the NETAs for BII, and anyone that was there, it was really fantastic, and it was the best pool of speakers that I saw. And we had Molly talking about the menopause, like, thank God we're getting real, brilliant, and many other fantastic speakers, and there is an ongoing theme, really, and we know the work and brilliant work that Mark's done at Hospitality Rising and things like that, and the ongoing theme is around the idea that we're changing hospitality overnight and suddenly getting more people. It's not going to happen, so we need to work smarter with who we've got. So the big takeaway I had is cross training, and that we have smaller, leaner teams, so we need to allow flexibility. I think it was it Patrick at So Let's Talk that said there's no such thing as a work-life balance, it's just a work and life balance, as in it's just a life balance. Work is a part of life, I think that's what he said, to quote him correctly. And he's absolutely right. So to get people to engage and deliver great guest experience from an operational perspective, we need to allow them to have a life. We need to allow flexibility. We need to cross train them so that they can jump on and be a KP. They can wash some pots. They can jump on front of house and book a reservation in when they turn up. Like, why would we not do that? Because it also engages into the whole part of the operational running of a venue, whether you're a restaurant, pub, bar, doesn't matter. So I think it's really smart, and it wasn't my idea. It came off the back of more brilliant people than I, at an event that I think was really important and really impactful to our sector at this time. But I love that we're talking about it. Because I've been in the industry for 2 decades. I've got, like everybody, I've got some pretty horrible stories of experiences that I have been through, and I've also got the best experiences ever, and that's why I'm still here, because I genuinely believe we have the best people, and we know there's a long way to go. And the fact that it's on the agenda, there's events that all they do is talk about being better with how we treat people, how we engage with people, how we see hospitality as a serious career path, bar to boardroom, for example, which is my background and a lot of our backgrounds. So I am hopeful, actually. It sounds like a negative point, but I think it's a positive, because I am hopeful that change is happening. It's happened, and there is a lot more to come.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's quite, although it's a challenging time, it's quite an exciting time to be part of the hospitality industry, because it feels like there's a lot of growth and positive changes and things that are happening. So it's a very exciting time to be in our industry at the minute, and I think it's certainly going to get more exciting in 2024.
Yeah, I think all of these things, trends, whatever we're talking about, there's challenges, absolutely, but the biggest fit for me is they're all opportunities, and the excellent operators with the right mindset will thrive, and that is actually the right way round. So yeah, here we go. Let's see what our crystal ball happens when we do this at the end of next year. Let's see how right we were, or if I'm going to get egg on my face for another Christmas isn't cancelled when it was campaign.
Amazing. So that wraps up our sales trends for 2024.